Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I'm currently still using my old camera because I don't have a lens for my other camera body yet. I just have straight up keep forgetting to get it because I'm responsible like that. But I already put on my moisturizer and then I put on my Bobbi Brown eye base thingy, and then I realized I had completely forgotten to press record, which is classic of me. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on a primer. I've been going back to using silicone based primers lately, so I'm going to be using this one from POREfessional. It is the Lite primer. Between this and the hydrating primer, I think they're kind of comparable. I think at that point it just boils down to what you prefer more, so I think they're both fine. Like, I feel like my foundations used to look a lot better back when I used the MCGRATH primer a lot more often, but then I stopped because my skin is just so dry. But back then I used to also use foundations that weren't like as matte all the time. I don't know, I feel like my skin used to be a lot better than it is now, probably because these days I oftentimes only put on my skincare once a day and I used to do twice, and I definitely need to go back to doing it twice, but it's so much energy. I'm gonna use my Givenchy foundation. This is N80, which usually doesn't match me, but then the one time I swatched N95 in store, I realized N95 was way too dark and yellow, so I'm in the awkward zone between the two, and I guess N80 was the right pick after all, now that I know that. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit ghostly on me, but I feel like I've lightened up a little bit recently, probably just because of the fact that I haven't left the house and it is winter now, so it's a lot less ghostly on me than it used to be. I will still fix it with contour, don't worry, I promise. I just realized I totally forgot to put on some kind of under eye corrector that is super awkward. So I haven't used this in a while. This is the Fenty Beauty Corrector. It fell out of favor for me after I got the Rare Beauty one, but I kind of want to go and use it today. My biggest gripe with it really is just the packaging. The squeezy tube packaging usually appeals to me, but I always squeeze out way too much. And trust me, this is too much. I feel like it's always super awkward for me that it just feels kind of wasteful. I mean, I'm never gonna finish the whole thing anyway, so I guess it's fine, but at the same time, it's like, I wish the squeezy tube was a little bit more forgiving in terms of the amount. So I'm just gonna use this as a base layer first. And I do have the camera set a little bit closer to me than normal. That's why so much of my face is cut off. That way I can actually reach the record button and I can turn it off and on every few minutes, because this is the camera that likes to crash. I have a little whitehead. My skin has been in terrible shape lately again. I really need to take better care of my skin, I think. I have a little whitehead on my nose. My forehead was absolutely covered in bumps over the weekend, and I have a lot of trouble spots right on this side of my face. My skin has not been super happy with me. Definitely a combination of stress, winter, and just not really caring for my skin as well as I need to. I need to find some time to do like a mask or something. I think my skin is just so bad. But anyways, so I am going to do concealer now, and I just realized my Tarte concealer is by my computer and I don't have it right here with me, so that's okay. I think I'm going to actually, no. I kind of want to, I haven't used this in such a long time because it's winter, and I've been debating if I actually want to hold on to it or not. I used to really like it, but the liquid version is just so much better. So I'm going to test this out as a concealer today and I'll see what happens. I'm curious. I remember last time I tried using this as a concealer, it kind of didn't work. I'm just using my finger. See, the new camera body that I got, it's a Sony. The lenses that they were selling were not going to be useful for me, so I only bought the body. I got a really good deal, I would say, on the camera body. I don't know, I did have another friend lend me one of his Sony lenses just so I could figure out what lens to buy, because you know lenses can be really expensive and it's important to get one that you like. So because of him, I do have a couple of videos I got that may or may not be up by the time you see this where I was using a Sony camera, and I feel like between Sony and Canon, it is just the color profile of the two cameras could not be more different. I have to say, Canon's color profiling is something that I'm going to miss once I stop using this camera, and it just really bums me out that I cannot just have the Sony build quality on a Canon camera, especially considering how much money that this Canon cost me, which I know is still technically low end as far as Canon cameras go, but I've been reading a lot recently about Canon having issues with quality control. They've been doing a lot of influencer marketing lately. I see so many influencers who receive stuff and get gigs with them, but then I see a lot of reviews from professional photographers where it feels like their cameras literally just fall apart. And that's basically like the reason that my M50 is dying is because the sensor is very slowly frying itself, so it'll just crash randomly because the sensor overheats, and that's just, there's really virtually nothing that I can do except get a new camera. So I switched to Sony, but I have to tell you, the color profile and the amount of post-processing I have to do to get it to look similar to my Canon footage is mildly frustrating, because when I take this footage from this Canon and I import it into the computer, I do almost nothing to it. And I know that that's not something that you're supposed to expect, because post-processing is a very common thing, but it is so nice to have a camera that just gets the colors right and I don't have to do anything. I can fuss more with the, I fuss more with getting the lighting right so that the footage looks good. I don't do, oh, the lighting's not right, but I can adjust it in post. I don't do that. I'm the exact other way around. And with Sony, there's so much blue and green. I have to do so much post-processing. It's honestly, it's something I'm just gonna have to get used to. I've been spoiled by Canon for as long as I have, and I'm just gonna have to get used to this new reality, but I don't know if I like it, and I don't know, we'll see. My skin is super dry, so I'm just gonna use my setting spray here. Like, I think if I could ever afford it, if I like became a big enough YouTuber that I could afford it, then the cost of having to replace a Canon every 2 years because it falls apart would just be a simple business expense that I'm used to. But I can't do that right now. I mean, seriously, what the heck? Plus, like, it's just ridiculous, the kind of electronic lifespan that we're all being told to get used to these days. So yeah, the Sony that I got, it's a slightly older model, but it was very well taken care of, and it honestly was not even used that much, and so it should last me a while. So I just need to get the new lens for it, which I just keep forgetting. Okay, and plus I get like, I'm pretty sure I know the one I want to get, but I'm like, but once I get it, it's final. Like, I can't change my mind. What if it's the wrong one? Because you know lenses are so, the lens honestly is more stressful than the camera body for me. But anyways. Yeah, dude, look at, it's like getting angrier and angrier as time goes on. You can see it grow in real time. Just gonna use this for my eyebrows. I don't know where my brow balance went either. I must have like never unpacked it, or I must just like have cleaned it and stuck it somewhere. It's one of the two. These are looking a little bit rough today. They've seen better days. Sorry about that. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better, especially in the front. Okay, so for eyeshadow today, I definitely have quite... I think today I was kind of in the mood to do something using this. This is one of the new Viseart releases. So I haven't really had anything catch my eye from Viseart for a while, honestly ever since like Dark Edit. I think I have like the original Cashmere edit, and I used to have Paris edit, but then I just passed that along. Nothing really has caught my eye since then, but then they released the new Cashmere palette, the darker one, and then they also released this new Petit Fours in the shade Tyrian, and this definitely caught my eye. And then they had like a 30% sale, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but back in 2020 Viseart had a promotion where if you were an essential worker, then you could get into their 20% off professional program. You just had to show like proof of your employment and stuff. So I joined that, so I've had a flat 20% off discount on their website ever since then, which I don't use as often as I probably should, but like it's fine. So I found out it does actually stack with the 30% off discount, so it's not 50% off, okay? It's percentage off math, which means it's, you know, whatever 20% off of 30% is, or the other way around. Like, you can do the math on that one. But anyways, it stacked quite nicely to roughly about 40% off, and of course I didn't meet free shipping, so then a lot of that got added right back on in the form of shipping. But I got the new Cashmere one, the darker one, and then I also did get this one. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and use this to create a look today. I think this is what I'm feeling. I really like it when my palettes, it doesn't matter if they are small or large, I really like when there is a very large range of value. So it has to go from light to dark, or if there is not going to be one end of the range, I really want the light end to be ignored and it go very dark, because I can always pull inner corner highlighters and transition shades from any other palette or face powder or bronzer or highlighter or whatever. Like those are so easy to replace. So this, as you can see, has 2 light shades and 2 dark shades, which is really great. This is like me probably making the world's tiniest knock in my backlog, but one thing at a time. So anyways, I know some people it's a pet peeve of some people when they see a person on a video use a product once and then literally never use it again, but sorry. I was hoping to upload and film more often than I do. That would definitely solve that problem if I just filmed and uploaded more often, but yeah, evidently my body said no. Which I found out the other day that one of my aunts also has a similar problem to me, the long C, for lack of a better word. It does seem like the misfortune runs in the family. And I mean, at least she's retired, so at the very least it's not like she has to go to work and she has to worry about her bills or anything. Like, she's retired, she does get pension and social security and whatever else China's programs are. It's just, you know, her own personal quality of life obviously is taking the L like mine is. So that was very easy and it laid down really nicely. I got a really opaque laydown, and I'm using a Sigma diffused crease brush. This is the E38. I'm just using this to lay it down roughly, and that looks really good. I'm not gonna quite connect it to the outer corner. I kind of like how the way I'm applying this shade right now is making my eyes look a lot larger. So I'm just gonna leave the outer corner empty. And I'm glad I'm not getting fallout either, since I didn't set anything. That would have been awkward. So you can see how I applied it there. It looks really cool. Like, this is a really nice shade, and the fact that it's been this easy to apply. I'm not really even doing anything super specific or complicated. I'm just pressing it onto my eyelid and then roughly sweeping the brush, and it's just kind of working itself out, which is really nice. One thing I do like about Viseart's shadows is I feel like their mattes are very low maintenance. I don't really need to prep my skin in a specific way for them to work really well, which is good because I have really dry eyelids, and dry eyelids can sometimes be super high maintenance with certain shadow formulas. Particularly indie mattes do not stick well to my eyelid type, I've noticed. They tend to look better on people with oilier eyelids than me. I feel like the oils really help catch the pigment and make it stick down, but Viseart's formula doesn't really care too much about the state of my eyelids, so it works really well. That's the same reason that I like the Natasha Denona Creamy Matte formula as well. It's just very dry eyelid friendly. So I'm gonna take that tan colored shade that you saw on the top row of the quad, and I'm going to use this to blend out the edges of this look. But I'm not going to take it super far down because I don't want to lighten up what I laid down either. I'm just using this on the edges. Okay, and then I'm going to take this metallic. I'm gonna just use this on my finger. Generally speaking, I find Viseart metallics to be okay. I don't usually go for them over other metallics. I do much prefer Viseart's mattes. I find that their inner corner shades tend to be really pretty because they can be very smooth and very softly shiny, and they create a really beautiful finish for an inner corner highlight, but I don't generally use them on their own as a point shade. So rubbing my finger into this, it felt kind of hard pressed and not a lot came off my finger, but I'll give it a try. I know generally speaking Viseart's metallics are never meant to be super dramatic or intense and molten, so I'm not gonna fault them for not being super shiny, but preference wise I do kind of find them to be not my favorite. They do apply and perform fine, but it's just not usually to my preference. But So I'm gonna use this kind of across my eyelid. It is really pretty though, like the purple flecks that catch the light you can see on camera. I don't know where I put my NYX glitter glue either, that's why I haven't been using it lately. I usually do, I do try to make an effort to use it, but I don't know where it is right now. Okay, so I feel like these two shades do work really well together. And it applied and blended out fine, and I will say I barely had to clean off my finger because it all went from my finger to my eyelid. That's always nice to see. I like how I can just build up a lot of layers too. Just really making sure that's nice and dark. Yeah, that is really nice. That purple matte, like, wow. I like that a lot. Okay, so I want to test out this shade here, which I saw some people online when they reviewed it mention that it seemed a little bit sparklier than normal for Viseart. So it does feel a little bit gritty, and it does seem to have more of a translucent finish, but it feels kind of dry and hard pressed as well. Looks a lot better on the eyelid than it felt like it would feel in the pan. Like, it looks a lot better than it feels. I feel like it's a little bit too bright to use alone with these other two shades. Like, it's really making my eyes look super far apart because of the fact that I did more of a winged out look. So I think I still need to pull in some kind of middle shade, but I'll go ahead and use this like up here as like a topper, because this is definitely the perfect shade to put in that position. That is really, really pretty. I definitely have other topper shades that are like it. Like, it's hardly unique, but it is very pretty. And since it's a little bit on the drier side, I can see it having like a longer shelf life compared to other shades that are toppery that are like softer. Like, it won't dry out as quickly on you. It's kind of hard to pick up with a brush though because it's so stiff in the pan. I'm just using a very, very stiff synthetic brush, but it's like, it doesn't pick up super well. I want to put this on the lower lash line too. Ooh, it's really pretty there. Okay, it's pretty, but it does require, you do have to really push into the pan to get it to pick up on a brush. I will just have to say that. Okay, I had to actually open every single Mothership before I found Mothership 5, which is hilarious. Like, I need to label them, but anyways, I'm gonna take Mothership 5. I think this shade right here will be a really fun contrasting look. And yes, before anybody says anything, I know that all of my stuff looks hardly touched. I'm gonna use this. I think it'll just add a nice amount of color contrast. There is definitely a shade similar to this in the Danessa Myricks Lightworks 5, if anybody was wondering, although I don't know if that one sold out yet. This one's a little bit sparklier than that one though. That one is this one, the chunks are a little bit bigger. This is definitely not as unique of a shade as it used to be when Mothership 5 first launched. I know when Mothership 5 first launched, it really felt like there was hardly a shade like this out in the market, aside from really, really obscure, like you had to look really far into the indie space to find one, because even Clionadh hadn't quite expanded their range by as much as they did now. These days definitely feels like these shades are a dime a dozen, but it was very, very unique for its time. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit more of the dark purple shimmer just because I think I accidentally covered up a little bit too much. I think these shades actually mesh really well together. It's kind of just like an unexpected combination, but it works really well, I think. Okay, and then lastly, I do want to put something on like the innermost lower lash line, but in order for me to do that without causing like, I don't like putting glitter toppers there because those basically never work for right in the inner corner for obvious reasons. So instead, I usually prefer to just take a smoother shade. So I'm just going to use one of the shade. I'm going to use the light inner corner shade from Mothership 5. It's a little bit dark and a little bit warm, but it's whatever. I'm just being lazy. I think it might help if I take a little bit of that, like right over here. Okay, so this is going to be my look complete. It really didn't take very long, and I think it's actually really fun, like kind of a fun twist on things. I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as is. I do think this is really pretty and I don't want to mess with it too much. So I'm just going to leave that like that, I think. I like it. So I'm going to put on some lashes off camera and I'll be back and I'll finish the makeup face. Whatever. Okay, so the heat is blasting right behind me. Yeah, hopefully it's not too loud, but I put on some lashes. I didn't cut them as short as I usually do, so I don't know if they're a little bit too much. I think they're all right. And then I do want to put on some eyeliner, so I'm going to do my little inner corner eyeliner like I usually do. I think that much is good. I did realize I forgot to blend out my lower lash line with a different shade. So I feel like my lower lash line looks a little bit abrupt. So I'm just going to take a single shadow really quickly and I'm just going to blend this out. I kind of want it to be smoked out a little bit lower anyways. Yeah. I used the HINCE shadow in Authentic. It's this one right here. It's actually quite an unusual shade, so I do really like that I have it. I'm going to use this soft matte Laguna bronzer. And it is important for me to use a little bit more than normal when I use this foundation so that it can meld a little bit better into my neck. Yeah, do you see how that just makes such a difference? This is generally the bronzer I prefer to bring with me when I travel because since it's not powder, it's not going to shatter. So it seems like it's a very stable product as well. Plus I've had it at this point for a really long time and it still works really well. It hasn't dried out at all. So this is definitely kind of my travel bronzer of choice. It's either that or a stick one, depending on what I feel like bringing, but I do generally prefer this one since I travel with a lot of makeup brushes anyways. I feel like my under eyes look so dry. I don't know if it's visible on camera, but I just feel like they look kind of dry. I'm not sure. Definitely I need to pay more attention, start taking better care of my skin and stuff. That would help. And then for blush, see, I'm never quite so sure what to match for blush to like a shade like this. I think maybe something more beige will work, which is kind of boring, but I think that's just ultimately what might be the choice to go for. Sorry, I was reaching for something off camera. I'm gonna try and use this. This is super, this could honestly double as like a bronzer, but I'm gonna try and use this as a blush. Curious to see what'll happen. And I'm using a Flower Nose blush brush. I absolutely love these as my blush brushes when I don't want to over apply my blush. Kind of focus it on the outer perimeter of my face. I'm not going to bring it too far in. Concentrate the pigment kind of in the back over here. Okay, yeah, I think that'll work. Definitely like a really like boring blush shade. I'm not usually one for beige blushes. As I've said before, I don't like most Western beige blushes because they always end up being so warm. Like they're trying to make you look straight up sunburnt and tanned, which is not usually what I go for. But like when beige blushes became really trendy in Korea, under the undertones of the beiges, they act more as like a space filling blush and they give off a much more kind of delicate feel. Like it just kind of feels like your face is just gently contoured and shaped by the blush as opposed to looking like you got a lot of sun. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to take this shade. This is P09, and the reason I don't have the English shades on me at the moment is just because of the fact that I bought these from their Chinese Taobao storefront, so the labeling is in Chinese. But when I do the text box for the products and in the description box, I'll have the English shade names. So I'm gonna take this and use this to add just a hint of rosiness to the blush. This definitely was a shade I knew I wanted because this is not a shade I really have in my collection. I don't have many cool toned blush shades like this. I do have one from 3CE I really like, but it is darker than this one is. Okay, so you see how I'm just applying that on the inner portion? It's really, really pretty. These Flower Nose brushes do tend to shed a couple of hairs when you're first starting to use them, but they don't shed very much. It's just a little bit, which is kind of normal, I think. From what I hear, it's kind of normal. It's not super uncommon. When I said I don't need setting powder, I definitely should have remembered that I have a nose. Okay, so now my pores are definitely much more blurred out. This will go on my forehead. I'm just using a dual fiber slash stippling brush. That way I can apply literally the lightest coating of powder ever. Like you see this much that I'm taking, and then I just really fast and loose tap it across my face. If it's winter time and your skin is dry and you still need some amount of setting powder, use the least dense brush you can find and then have it coat the edge of the bristles nicely, and then just really carefully stipple it onto your face. The loose powder that I have on my vanity right now that I haven't like moved into my clean space is the Jaclyn and Robin one. It is now gone, so that's why you don't see me putting it in the product description or having a box for it anymore, because A, it's not available, and B, like Jaclyn Hill, I'm really trying to like not support her anymore. But this is what I'm using right now, just so you guys know. It is objectively a very good powder, but you can definitely get similar on the market. Of course, there are plenty of other options. So just if you're gonna use a powder, obviously just use whatever you want. I do find her powders to be very nice for dry skin. I will be sad when it's gone because I didn't buy it back up, but it is what it is. Okay, so that is the blush on. It's actually, I like the result that I came up with. It's definitely a lot more subtle than I usually go for, but I don't mind. I'll just go ahead and use this from Tom Ford, wrote the 02, the Paradis shade. This is probably, well, no, I've used this on my nose before. I can get away with it on my nose. I do actually really like this highlighter because you can see, so I have some bumps right under where I put my highlighter, but you can see that as I move my skin, now that I put the highlighter on, that the bumps that I have right here are not actually emphasized like at all. So I do actually really like this highlighter, and I think it is really nice, especially if your skin has texture. But I would literally never ever say go out and buy it because of the fact that it is so expensive, and I got it 20% off. I still think that it's too much. So while I do think it is a good highlighter, I have a hard time ever thinking you should spend Tom Ford prices on a highlighter, which joke's on me because I did get the Valentine's blush when it dropped on Macy's. I missed it on Selfridges. I kept forgetting to buy it and then it sold out, so I missed it, but I really wanted that because I'm such a sucker for heart packaging, and the shade also looked absolutely perfect. So I did buy that. So joke's on me. I am one to talk, but I would never ever tell anyone who watches my videos to go out and buy it. So if you want to buy it, then I mean, go ahead. I hope you enjoy it, but there are definitely cheaper highlighters on the market. Even if you want to treat yourself to a luxury highlighter, you can still spend a lot less than $90 on a highlighter and get something that is really nice and luxurious. I have it, but I'm by no means trying to encourage anyone to go get it. If you wanted to like splurge on a luxury highlighter, no shame. There is something about a highlighter, especially one with super fancy packaging and a super fancy embossing, that just gets me every time. I'm definitely not the only one. So if you wanted to dump money onto a fancy highlighter just so you can feel fancy and look pretty, then I personally think that you would be best off with waiting for Pat McGrath to release one of her limited edition highlighters and getting that, because those highlighters truly are amazing. But if that's not going to do it for you, I also think Givenchy has a really good loose one. If you don't mind loose, those are really, really nice. If you don't care about the luxury pricing, but you just want something that looks super fancy, then I think Flower Nose would be really good, especially now that the a new Angel collection has released those highlighters. I am so eager to compare. I don't have it yet. I'm waiting. It'll arrive eventually. One of my cousins helped me get it, and she'll be back in the US soon. But I think Flower Nose definitely has really luxe packaging and fancy packaging if you just care about the packaging. And then also lastly, I think like if you wanted something a little bit more subtle, I think that the Guerlain Meteorites is another great luxury option. And then it is not that much difference in price from Tom Ford, but it is slightly cheaper. Sometimes Chantecaille highlighters sometimes are around, I think, aside from like the really expensive like $110 one, that was kind of dumb, but I do believe Chantecaille has released highlighters in the $60 to $75 price range before, so that is still cheaper than $95. But personally, if you really wanted to splurge on a luxury highlighter that made you look pretty and fancy, I do personally think you should just wait for Pat McGrath's limited edition ones. Like I have one of her Bridgerton ones and I absolutely love it. I think it's great, and I think there's another one coming out for Valentine's, which I'm not gonna get because I have enough of her highlighters at this point, but or also Bobbi Brown if Bobbi Brown has limited edition highlighters, those are really cool. I have one of the limited edition packagings for Pink Glow, and I love Pink Glow. It's super, super pretty. So anyways, plenty of options besides Tom Ford that are equally overpriced but still cost you a little bit less money. Plus Pat McGrath goes on sale often, so that helps too, right? But I mean, it's nice though, what can I say? This is the Romand lip liner. This is just what I've been using because it's the only lip liner on my desk. So you're gonna see me continue to use this for a while to come, which is fine. It's a nice lip liner. Yeah, I just have so much to do. I feel like the house is just never gonna get clean, and I'm never gonna get caught up because the makeup releases always just wanna like pull me in. I did also get the MAC Heart blushes too. I mean, if nothing else, I am very predictable. Okay, and then for my lipstick, I think I might try one of my new ones. I think I may try one of these. I know these are pretty sheer. That's why I only got these shades, but maybe this one? This one kind of matches my blush, right? I think I'll go ahead and try this one. This is in the shade 101. Yeah, I think this will work. It's definitely going to be more sheer than it looks on the doe foot because I've seen lip swatches of these, but I think this will work. It'll give me the nice corpse look that'll match with the purple eyeshadow. I'm usually not one for shades like these, but I'm trying to branch out. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be the person who wears green, blue, or black lipstick, but I want to branch out in terms of lip colors to more shades of pinks and purples and browns. I really want to try and embrace more of the purple and the brown this year. I feel like I actually would secretly look really, really, really good in brown lipstick. Like, I feel like I actually could really pull it off, but I'm too scared, so that's why I'm like, I want to change that this year. I think brown lipstick could be totally my color. I just need to like be brave and try it. But because of that, I actually don't own any brown lipsticks, so to remedy that, I need to find a brown lipstick, and I haven't really found one that I want to buy yet. I love the formula. I've heard so many good things about this formula, so I was so eager to try it, and it feels really nice. It's not sticky at all. Feels super nice. It's a little bit thinner than I expected, so it's not quite forming the film over your lips that like the lasting gloss does, but it is really, it feels really, really nice. And I actually think this is like such a nice level of pigmentation. Definitely sheer, but it definitely also pulled a lot of color out of my lips. I kind of look like, you know, back when you were little and you spent way too much time in the pool and your lips turned kind of blue? That happened to my sister a lot. I kind of feel that vibe. I need to cut my bangs. So I'll just kind of scoot back a little bit. I forgot to use my air straight on it when it dried, and then I just fell asleep, so I just woke up and my hair was kind of all over the place, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna lean back a little bit so that I'm a little bit more zoomed out, but this is going to be my finished look. So I hope you guys didn't mind this very rambly and somewhat pointless video. I really don't know what I was talking about or why I was talking about any of it, but the Viseart quads, Viseart formula I usually have no problem with. I personally do tend to find their shimmers to be a little bit more on the boring side, but if you're into more smooth and more low-key metallics, especially when you want them to be on the drier side and you want them to wear really, really well, then I definitely think Viseart is a great brand to go for in terms of that. I think it's completely fine. The mattes, of course, for me are where Viseart has always stood out the most, and I also do think their smooth inner corner highlight shades are really, really nice. I actually do think the sparkly topper in this palette, while pretty, was kind of hard to pick up on a brush. It did feel very dry and hard pressed. Like, I really had to go in there with a brush. With the finger was fine. So I think this is probably what, like the first or second time that they've done these kinds of sparkly toppers. But anyways, so it was workable, but I definitely think in terms of sparkly toppers, I've seen better. However, I will say if you wanted a sparkly topper that gives you no fallout because of how tight it's pressed, this definitely would be it for you, because I definitely know some people out there where it's like the reason sparkly shades bother them so much is because the fallout can be so intense. Like Pat McGrath sparkle toppers sometimes just fall out all over the place. This definitely I had no fallout with any of the shades of this palette while I was applying it, so that is definitely a really big pro in terms of this, is that if you wanted a sparkly topper shade that gives you no fallout while applying it, this would definitely be it for you. So just like, you know, obviously it just depends on what are you willing to put up with. Me personally, I don't generally go for shimmers that are this subtle, specifically with the Tyrian. Specifically I can't talk, with the Tyrian quad. The subtle bright purple reflex that are in this metallic shade actually make it quite a unique shade that looks really, really pretty as I turn my head and it catches the light. It's a little bit more kind of dimensional and fun, has a little bit more things going on than other metallics from the brand. I definitely was most impressed with the darkest purple matte in this palette. Opaque coverage, blended out so easily, and even on my dry eyelids I was able to get it pretty much to look completely true to pan. So for that alone, this was worth it, because I think only paid maybe like $14 to $15 for this. So obviously for me it's worth it, but if you were to buy Tyrian full price but like with like 30% knocked down, I still think it would be absolutely worth it. I do want to like wear test it and stuff like that, but as somebody with dry eyelids who stays indoors pretty much all day and never leaves the house, my wear tests are usually extremely unhelpful. So I don't know if I'm a reliable source for that, but in terms of application for dry eyelids, I do personally really like Viseart. My complexion could be better, but I really need to like, I need to like take care of my skin. It's just so like, I feel like everything is so exhausting. Like there's some days where I have to like force myself even just to like take a shower, which is absolutely disgusting, you know? But anyways, so I'm going to end this video here. I think I have kissed up to Viseart enough in this video, but I genuinely do really like Tyrian. I was hoping to do multiple looks with all these palettes, but you'll just have to settle for me using all of them once, which is better than none, until I have more energy to do multiple looks with palettes again. It's just not something I really have the energy for right now. But hope you guys don't mind. I like how this turned out. It's really pretty. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. So yeah, until then, take care. Bye-bye.